The crystalline spires of the Velkari capital pierced the violet sky like shards of frozen starlight. Commander Ethan Cross stood at the viewing platform of the diplomatic tower, his reflection ghostly against the panoramic window. Behind him, the marriage contract lay on the obsidian table, a document that would seal his fate and potentially save two civilizations from war. "You understand what this means?" Ambassador Chen's voice was gentle, but her eyes held the weight of billions of lives. "The Velkari Empress has chosen you specifically. It's an unprecedented honor." Ethan's jaw tightened. "An honor that comes with a life expectancy measured in months, not years." The truth hung between them like a guillotine blade. Velkari biology was incompatible with human physiology in the most fundamental way. Their skin secreted a compound, beautiful, iridescent, and utterly toxic to human cellular structure. Prolonged contact would cause systematic organ failure. The medical reports had been clear, 6 months, perhaps 8 if he was lucky. "The war would claim millions," Chen said softly. "Your sacrifice." "I know." Ethan cut her off, his voice hollow. "I've read the projections. I've seen the fleet movements. The Velkari Empire and the Terran Coalition are one diplomatic failure away from mutual annihilation." He turned from the window, his blue eyes hard as diamonds. "I'm a soldier. I know my duty." The Empress Kalmora entered the chamber like winter moonlight taking form. Her skin was the deep navy blue of Earth's ocean depths, shot through with bioluminescent patterns that pulsed with her emotions, currently showing the gold and silver of formal solemnity. Her hair an impossible cascade of pure white that seemed to absorb and refract light simultaneously fell to her waist. She was taller than Ethan by half a foot, her build elegant but unmistakably powerful. "Commander Cross." Her voice was melodic, tinged with harmonics that human vocal cords couldn't produce. "I am told you have accepted the marriage bond." "Your Majesty," Ethan bowed, military precise. "For the sake of peace between our peoples, yes." Something flickered in her large, luminous violet eyes. Was it regret? Guilt? The bioluminescent patterns on her skin shifted briefly to deep blue before returning to formal gold. "You know what this will cost you," she said, and it wasn't a question. "I know what war would cost everyone else." The marriage ceremony was a spectacle of alien beauty and human solemnity. Ethan stood in the ceremonial armor of a Terran officer, Kalmora in flowing robes of liquid silver that moved like water. The Velkari priestess bound their hands with ribbons of light, holographic projections containing the treaty terms, the marriage vows, the promises between empires. When it was done, they were escorted to the royal chambers. The door sealed behind them with a soft hiss, and suddenly the weight of what he'd agreed to crashed over Ethan like a tsunami. Kalmora stood by the balcony, her back to him, the twin moons of her homeworld casting her in silhouette. "I want you to know," she said quietly, "that I argued against this. I told the council there had to be another way. But there wasn't." Ethan moved to stand beside her, carefully maintaining distance. "No," her voice broke slightly. "The hardliners on both sides want blood. This marriage is the only symbol powerful enough to stop them. A human commander and a Velkari empress choosing peace over pride." She finally turned to look at him, and her eyes were swimming with moisture. "But the price is mine to pay. You'll die." The words were stark, brutal. "Slowly, painfully, every touch, every moment of contact between us accelerates the process. And as your wife, as the symbol of this union, I'm expected to, she couldn't finish. Ethan felt something crack open in his chest. This woman, this alien empress who could have chosen war, chosen pride, chosen power, was breaking apart at the thought of his death. Then we make the time count, he said firmly. 6 months to build a peace so strong it can't be broken. 6 months to prove that different species can choose understanding over extinction. The first month was a careful dance. They appeared together at state functions, stood united before the combined councils, smiled for the cameras that would broadcast their union across 2 empires. In private, they maintained careful distance, learning each other through words rather than touch. Ethan discovered that Kalmora was brilliant, a strategic mind that rivaled any Terran general. She loved ancient poetry, both human and Velkari, and could recite verses in a dozen languages. She had a sharp wit that caught him off guard, and a laugh like crystal chimes that made something in his chest tighten. Kalmora learned that Ethan had been a colony kid from Mars, that he'd joined the military after his settlement was saved by Terran peacekeepers, that he believed in protecting the vulnerable with a fervor that bordered on religious. He was kind, she discovered, in ways that had nothing to do with duty. He remembered the names of every servant in the palace, asked about their families, treated everyone with the same respect he gave to emperors. By the 2nd month, they were friends. By the 3rd, something more dangerous was blooming between them, something neither dared name. It was during the 4th month that everything changed. They were reviewing treaty amendments in the private study when Kalmora's hand accidentally brushed against Ethan's. The contact lasted less than a second, but Ethan gasped, his skin burning where she'd touched him. "I'm sorry." Kalmora jerked back, horror flooding her features, her skin flashing distressed crimson. "I didn't mean," but Ethan was staring at his hand, not in pain, but in wonder. The burning sensation was fading, but something else was happening. His skin, where she'd touched him, was changing, developing a faint, iridescent shimmer. "Ethan?" Kalmora's voice was frightened. He looked up at her and she stepped back involuntarily. His eyes were glowing, not reflecting light, but actually producing it, a soft blue luminescence. I don't understand," he whispered. "It should hurt. The medical report said, the royal physician, now." Kalmora's command voice cracked like a whip. Dr. Velkin, the head of the Velkari Medical Science Division, ran test after test, his equipment chirping and humming. Finally, he turned to them, his own skin flickering with confused orange patterns. "Commander Cross," he said slowly, "your cellular structure is adapting. I've never seen anything like this. The Velkari contact toxins that should be destroying your organs are instead being absorbed and restructured at the genetic level." "What does that mean?" Ethan demanded. Velkin manipulated a holographic display showing Ethan's DNA structure rotating in 3 dimensions. "It means you're not dying, Commander. You're evolving. Your human genome is incorporating Velkari genetic sequences. You're becoming something new, something that's never existed before." Kalmora sank into a chair, her skin cycling through a rainbow of emotions. "How is this possible?" "I don't know," Velkin admitted. "Perhaps it's the prolonged low-level exposure without fatal contact. Perhaps it's something unique to Commander Cross's genetic makeup. Perhaps." He paused, his scientific reserve cracking slightly. "Perhaps it's because you love each other." The words hung in the air like a confession. Ethan and Calmora looked at each other across the medical bay, and all the careful distance they'd maintained shattered. "I do," Ethan said quietly. "Love you. I've been trying not to because I was supposed to die, and it seemed cruel to both of us, but—" Calmora crossed the distance between them in 3 strides and kissed him. The medical equipment shrieked alarms as Ethan's physiology went into overdrive. But instead of organ failure, instead of cellular collapse, his body surged with energy. The bioluminescent patterns that had started on his hand spread across his skin like wildfire, creating designs that mirrored Calmora's own markings. His height increased, his muscle structure reorganized, his senses exploded outward into spectrums he'd never imagined. When they finally broke apart, Dr. Velkin was staring at his instruments in shock. "Unprecedented," he breathed. "Commander, your strength has increased by 300%. Your cellular regeneration is now faster than any recorded human. Your lifespan," he scrolled through data, "potentially centuries, and the toxin incompatibility is completely gone. Your body has learned to not only survive Velkari contact, but to thrive on it." Over the following weeks, Ethan's transformation continued. He wasn't human anymore, not entirely. But he wasn't Velkari either. He was something unprecedented, a bridge between species made manifest in flesh and blood. His new abilities were staggering. He could see in spectrums invisible to human or Velkari eyes. His strength was superhuman, his reflexes faster than any baseline biology could achieve. He could survive in environments that would kill either parent species. And his mind, his capacity for processing information, for strategic thinking, for understanding both human and Velkari perspectives, had expanded exponentially. "You've ascended," Calmora whispered one night as they stood on the balcony, her head resting against his chest, his arms wrapped around her. His skin glowed softly in the darkness, patterns of light dancing in response to her touch. "Beyond human, beyond Velkari. You've become what this piece needs, someone who is both and neither, who can truly understand all sides." But with the transformation came responsibility. News of Ethan's change spread through both empires like wildfire. To some, he was a miracle, proof that the species could coexist in the most fundamental way. To others, he was an abomination, a warning against mixing what should remain separate. The hardliners on both sides, those who had opposed the marriage from the start, saw their chance. If Ethan's transformation was a mistake, a dangerous precedent, then the marriage could be annulled, the treaty dissolved, and war would be inevitable. The challenge came from General Torvik, leader of the Velkari military conservatives, backed by Admiral Zhang of the Terran hardliners. "This creature," Torvik spat the word during the emergency council session, "is an affront to the natural order. He is neither human nor Velkari, but some twisted hybrid." The marriage was based on false pretenses. It was supposed to be a sacrifice, not a transformation. "I call for annulment and a return to honorable warfare." Ethan stood before the combined councils, Calmora at his side. His enhanced senses could detect the fear and hostility radiating from the conservative factions, but also the hope from those who wanted peace. "You're right," Ethan said calmly, his voice carrying a harmonic resonance it had never had before. "I'm not what I was. I've changed in ways I never imagined possible." He stepped forward, and even Torvik, a veteran warrior, took an involuntary step back. "But that change is exactly what this piece needs. He gestured to the holographic display, calling up tactical simulations with a thought, another ability his enhanced mind had developed. You want war? Let me show you what war between our species would really look like. The simulation played out in horrifying detail. Ethan's enhanced strategic capabilities had allowed him to model the conflict with unprecedented accuracy. Billions dead on both sides, worlds rendered uninhabitable, a conflict that would rage for generations, consuming resources and lives until both civilizations collapsed into barbarism. That's one future, Ethan said as the simulation ended in mutual annihilation. Here's another. The display shifted, showing a different timeline. Humans and Velkari working together, sharing technology, exploring the galaxy as partners. New worlds settled by mixed communities. Scientific breakthroughs achieved by combining both species' knowledge. And there at key points in the timeline were others like Ethan, hybrids who served as living bridges between the species. I'm not an abomination, Ethan said quietly. I'm a prototype. I'm proof that we're not as incompatible as we feared. That love, understanding, and will can overcome biology itself. He looked at Kalmora, and his skin flared with light that matched her own patterns perfectly. I chose to sacrifice my life for peace. Instead, I found a new life and a way forward for all of us. Kalmora stepped forward, her hand finding his, their fingers intertwining without hesitation. My husband speaks the truth. What happened to him wasn't planned, but it's the most profound gift our peoples have ever received. We have a choice. We can fear the new and different, or we can embrace the possibility it represents. The debate raged for hours, but in the end, the peace faction prevailed by the narrowest of margins. The marriage would stand. The treaty would hold. And Ethan Cross, no longer quite human, no longer quite anything that had existed before, would become the first of a new diplomatic corps, enhanced individuals who could serve as living proof of what cooperation could achieve. 2 years later, Ethan stood in the same viewing platform where he'd accepted his death sentence, Kalmora beside him. Below, in the plaza, 3 more couples were preparing for the marriage ceremony. Humans and Velkari who had volunteered for the same transformation, the same bridge building that Ethan had stumbled into. Not all of them would transform as he had. The doctors still didn't fully understand why his body had adapted rather than rejected the Velkari biology. But enough had succeeded that a new path was opening. Do you regret it? Kalmora asked softly. Giving up your humanity? Ethan pulled her close, marveling as he always did at how perfectly they fit together now, as if they'd been designed for each other all along. I didn't give up my humanity, he said. I expanded it. I'm still Ethan Cross, colony kid from Mars who believes in protecting people. I just have better tools to do it with now. He kissed her forehead, his bioluminescence flaring in response to her presence. And I found you. That's worth any price. In the plaza below, the first of the new couples joined hands, and the galaxy watched to see if lightning would strike twice. It did.